What's up? All right, so what we gonna do right now is talk about Akon and his like his point of view, and what the masses of people is saying about Akon. You know what I'm saying? And I just want to put in my 2 cents. So just bear with me. All right. So what Akon said was that blacks in America need to be like Senegalese and actually get over slavery. You know what I mean? And to not saying that slavery is nothing and that you should forget slavery, not in that manner, but stop dwelling on the past. You know what I'm saying? With the facts that like in history, we had the Europeans fighting the Scots, right? And it was had one thing called the the right. What is it called, yo? It's called the rights of the first night, right? And these are when nobles was able to, you know, take a peasant woman who's about to be married. You know what I mean? She's about to be married tomorrow, or she's about to be married, or she just got married. But before they consummate the marriage, the nobles will say, "Hey, bring Shorty over here. It's time." You know what I mean? And he will be able to have sex with this man's just wife that he just married. You know what I mean? And that was their right. You know what I'm saying? And you don't see the Scots, you know, dwelling upon that. They was able to move on and then still be able to create their own society and to create their own world. You know what I'm saying? So that's what Akon really basically was saying. It's like there's a lot of stuff in history, and that's not a good look at all, especially within our peoples and within the world of the world we live in. There's a lot of stuff that's occurred that people don't even want to talk about, you know. But people overlook those things in order to move on. We are not together. We can't overlook our differences and look at what we have to put us together. You know what I'm saying? That's going on with Akon right now, because people try to diss him and say, "Yo, he ain't no African American. He ain't never experienced what we experience. He from Africa. He can go to Africa. He got his original name. He got this." Not even understanding that people in Africa is so way more oppressed than the average American. Like living under $5 a day, living under $5 a day, or maybe even $5 a week. You understand? So when you put that into perspective, and you understand that they still got the boot on these people's neck, talking about you owe us debt that most nations don't even owe. For real. What debt you talking about? You heard about the French against Haiti, and what they did to Haitians after they won their freedom. They came back with guns and ships and said, "Hey, you won't pay us for your freedom." And that's where you get Citibank, because that was the taxes that they was levied on Haitian people, and that's why Haiti is in poor as it is now. And I learned that from a dude talking on YouTube or something. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of history we don't know, and there's a lot of stuff we don't talk about. And now they want to take out their anger on Akon because Akon just want to tell you his point of view, his opinion. There's nothing wrong with having your own opinion. All right, so I previously made an analogy like this because black people like to dwell on the fact, yeah, yo, Africans sold us into slavery and this and this and that. Yo, it was this and it was that, and not understanding the dynamics of everything, because you hear white people say that shit and want to blame you for your turmoil. All right, so the analogy is this: right now in America, black people living in the same neighborhoods, right? So what happens when another black person, depend not who's in poverty, you know what I'm saying, who's oppressed and is in poverty, who can't get no job, right? Can't feed their family, chooses to go into a life of crime and go and start robbing people, right? Right? And he take his gun, he run up in your house with the gun, threatens you and your whole family, like lay down on the floor, do all types of wicked stuff that people do in robberies and just in general, just wickedness, you know what I mean? But somehow you get the upper hand and was able to subdue the perpetrator, right? And you subdued him, you got him in cuffs and everything, or you got him tied up. What do you do next? You're going to call the police. You're going to call the police, right? And the police is going to take this man, and then depending on his offenses, he can be locked up for the rest of his life, right? So what's the difference? What's the difference? Like, you got no history. Like during that time in Africa, during the colonial era, wars that was going on, civil war between different sects of black people.
The Yoruba Wars Nigeria Table of Contents. Oyo, the great exporter of slaves in the 18th century, collapsed in a civil war after 1817, and by the middle of the 1830s the whole of Yorubaland was swept up in these civil wars. New centers of power Ibadan, Abeokuta, Owo, and Warri contested control of the trade routes and sought access to fresh supplies of slaves, which were important to repopulate the turbulent countryside. At this time, the British withdrew from the slave trade and began to blockade the coast. The blockade required some adjustments in the slave trade along the lagoons that stretched outward from Lagos, while the domestic market for slaves to be used as farm laborers and as porters to carry commodities to market easily absorbed the many captives that were a product of these wars. War and slave raiding were complementary exercises among the Yoruba, who needed capital to buy the firearms with which they fought in a vicious cycle of war and enslavement. Military leaders were well aware of the connection between guns and enslavement.
This black person fighting this black person, that black person fighting this black person, to the point where, as though in my peoples, in Yoruba land, they had to put marks on their faces so you could tell who the different peoples are. You know what I'm saying? So the authority at the time was the British people, because they took over the problem of slavery and said they wanted to abolish it. So they made themselves like police officers over the thing. So if they call the police and say, hey, yo, I found some slave traders, and they take them slave traders and put them into slavery, or people at times would be captured in war. The people's at war. So you catch your enemy, right? And then you got the white man saying, hey, I'll take them away from you. I give you some guns. I give you gunpowder. I give you bullets. You know what I mean? I'll give you some military aid. All right, so to wrap everything up, Akon opinion is his opinion, but it's based on, knowledge. Because you can even go into the Bible, right, and see, this example being reiterated on how, the children of Israel and Joseph, the story of Joseph and his brothers, and Joseph was able to forgive his brothers for the atrocity that they imposed upon him.
And Joseph returned into Egypt, he and his brethren, and all that went up with him to bury his father, after he had buried his father. And when Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead, they said, Joseph will peradventure hate us, and will certainly requite us all the evil which we did unto him. And they sent a messenger unto Joseph, saying, Thy father did command before he died, saying, So shall ye say unto Joseph, Forgive, I pray thee now, the trespass of thy brethren, and their sin, for they did unto thee evil. And now we pray thee, forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of thy father. And Joseph wept when they spake unto him. And his brethren also went and fell down before his face. And they said, Behold, we be thy servants. And Joseph said unto them, Fear not, for am I in the place of God? But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save much people alive.
So that's just what it is. We supposed to be able to look over and get over certain issues, especially, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 160 years ago. We are supposed to be able to overlook that stuff and move on, you know what I mean, and then be able to, build a new society or build a new reality. And that's, just the basis of what I wanted to really say about this topic. All right. Have a good day.
I just wanna be good, wanna be good. I just wanna be good, wanna be good. I just wanna do good, wanna do good. That's why I tell you be good, be good. I just wanna be good, wanna be good. I just wanna be good, wanna be good. I just wanna do good, wanna do good. That's why I tell you be good, be good. Yeah. Catalogs is getting larger. Appetite not satisfied, I still got a hunger. I be tweaking, they be twerking, always putting work in. Every day new creations, I be birthing. It's Prince Mooney Ade, Yoruba for certain. Ikimo Goon from that Ondo crew. They call me a kata, but it don't matter, cause I still come through. Forget you if you think I'm not